Hey, Hardscape pros, get ready to turn adversity into opportunity in 2024 with the Hardscaper Showcase events. Discover cutting-edge tools, new construction techniques, and must-have products that will set you apart from the competition. This year, we're diving deep into pool projects, unlocking secrets to flawless coping installations, addressing drainage challenges, and maximizing value for your clients. You'll also learn how to elevate your outdoor kitchen game. We're talking about streamlining builds, creating multifunctional spaces, and impressing clients with innovative concepts. Finally, we'll show you how to stay ahead of the curve with the latest design trends. Explore new color combos, patterns, and layout strategies that will leave your clients speechless. Don't miss out on the Hardscaper Showcase events, empowering hardscape professionals to thrive in 2024. Visit events.hardscaper.com and sign up today. You're listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. I'm your host, Alex from TechnoBlock, and today we're joined by Lee Beecher from Bold Lighting. We're going to talk about Showcase because they play a big role in our Showcase events. We're going to talk about some success stories that Lee has seen from contractors who have been learning ways to grow their businesses. We're going to talk about what is Bold Lighting and why you need to pay attention to that new brand. And I'm sure we're going to hit a bunch of other stuff along the way because Lee is a former contractor now representing Bold Lighting. He's been around to many different markets, many different states, lots of different projects. So you've seen a lot of good things and bad things. So I'm sure you're going to have a lot to share with us today on the show. Welcome, Lee.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Pumped to be here.
Yeah. So let's dive right into it. You as a contractor came to a lot of our Showcase events. And you were telling me when we were talking about doing this episode earlier this week, you were talking to me about the impact that it had on your business, and now subsequently the advice that you can bring to contractors now that you're in this consultative representative role.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been a crazy journey to say the least. I can think back 6-7 years ago when I first met you and Pete and the whole gang at. I think back then it was like the Camp Hill show in Central PA before we really branched off to King of Prussia. But the education that came forth, man, like just understanding, getting to network with the reps in the area of the different brands and things like that you can actually, really utilize to create those efficiencies within your business. It's paramount to get out there and really take that information in because there's not a lot of companies out there providing such a resource to it. So it was huge for me. I created a lot of good processes and really was able to grow pretty efficiently through all the things I took in from those shows. And, we went back year after year, took the guys to them. There's just a lot for your entire team to take in at those shows. So they're a really good resource to have.
Why was it so important for you to bring your team?
Well, I mean, as a business owner, we've got enough hats, right? You take on the estimating, the sales, and just doing everything from beginning to end. You need to have some guys on your team that you can let alone and let them, have the confidence that they're going to be able to do it exactly how you would want them to do it. So taking them to the show so they're getting that same amount of information that you're bringing in, that's vital to making sure your team can kind of work with a little bit of decentralized command, because that's a big part of being a business owner, is being able to remove yourself from those projects and still know that things are getting done and they're getting done correctly.
So involving the team, getting them up to speed, showing them the path, and helping them understand a lot of the decisions that you might be making as a business owner too, because you're seeing something at the show, you're like, oh, that would be really smart for us to do. Right. And they're there with you. So they're on board from the minute the idea happens.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing too, there's little details that, we as humans, we take in a lot of information and, we don't always get all those little intricate details that can really make or break a job, or they can just set that job way apart from the rest. So seeing everything and being able to take it in, I might remember some things from the show, but my guys might have remembered 3 other things that I'm like, that's a make or break thing.
Yeah. So together you guys remember more, and together you achieve more over time. So then, you were a contractor. Now you've stepped into this rep role. What made you do that in the first place?
Oh man, that's a funny conversation I get into with a lot of people. Because 8 years ago, The younger Lee, if you'd asked me if I was going to be a sales rep, I would have laughed at you and walked away. Just
Yeah.
because we as sales reps per se, we get that stigma about us, right? That's not something we all want to be into. But honestly, just having the education and the background in the industry, it allows me to be more of a solution provider than just being a sales guy, right? We're here to help make everybody's life easier. The hardscape industry is such a big family. And I had the opportunity to be, one of the first US reps for a company that was actively growing quickly into the nation. And, I jumped on it, man. It was a cool little transition. And it's taught me a lot on the back end, even just there's still a lot of contractor left in my blood, right? It's kind of one of those things you don't really let go of.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm able to share, the things that I've seen, the things that I've learned from others and from my past experiences. So it's made it a really cool ride for me to just kind of have both aspects, right? Not a lot of people have both sides of the table to talk from. So
what are some of the things, like being on both sides of the table, not only just in your day to day, but even just coming to the shows? What are some of the things that stand out the most to you in terms of lessons that maybe people, like you've seen people pick up, or that you've picked up from people that you got exposed to more stuff that are worth sharing with our audience here today?
Well, and that takes me back to the shows, right? Like coming to the Hardscape Show, you're really being able to see the 3,000-foot view of the industry. You're seeing a bunch of new products that are coming in and being innovative in the industry and allowing you to make life a lot easier, because we know hardscaping is not for the faint of heart. It is a very difficult job, right? Mm-hmm. And there's so many tools and procedures and just people to integrate into your company that allow you to make life a lot easier, from, Pave Tool and Smart Level, things like that really make a project go a lot smoother. Being able to see that and understand it a little bit more, when I made the transition, I took the time as a contractor to talk to a lot of these guys, but you spend a lot more time around them when you're on the flip side of the table. Mm-hmm. And, I think guys kind of downplay how much time they should spend talking to people like that as a business owner and as an employee, because, it's not just going to them like, oh, hey, what's the deal today? What do you got for me? Like, everybody at these shows has a book of knowledge, a very big book of knowledge that you can learn so much from if you ask the right questions. And just getting out there and networking, I think, is the biggest thing that is going to help you grow your business. It's not even so much just the products, but the people that bring you the products. Like, they have an aspect that could really open your eyes to something you're not seeing as a business owner, as an employee at one of these companies.
I'm really happy you brought up that one word, networking, because we're on a tear of episodes here where, like, literally everyone in the last 3, 4, 5 episodes is talking about the value of having a network and what it has done to change their business. Having, whether it was Lawson a couple of weeks ago, who was talking about the mentors that he has. He has mentors and advisors and people he can go to ask for advice. Whether it was Mark was talking about when you're attending these events, just exactly like you just said, being able to have that peer-to-peer exchange of like, well, listen, this is what I'm going through. Have you seen anything like this? Or what are you going through? Oh, yeah, I went through that 2 years ago. I did this. That was a mistake. I wouldn't do that again. I would do this instead. Right. The information is there and it's free. And like you said earlier, like, the industry is a really friendly place. Like, there's a lot of other industries where, like, you go to a conference and no one's saying anything to anyone. And that's not the case in ours. So, like, take advantage of it.
Yeah, 100%. And everybody they're all there for the same reason, right? They all want to learn. They all want to find ways to set them above the rest, but at the same time, like, there's that friendly competition, mm-hmm. but there's also a ton of idea building and just sharing across the board. So that is huge. It's a very vital part. And, like, I think, you guys as a brand pushing, a lot of education out there, that was probably, I'm sure that was a thought into the planning process, but it's kind of just an added bonus to the show, right? It's one of those things that you guys are there for the education portion of it, right? Mm-hmm. But the guys are all there, that whole party of people that comes into each one of these shows, they create that networking aspect. And that's where the value really adds on and it kind of piles on top.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing that we're trying to bring to the party from a networking standpoint is we're bringing the house
Yep.
that we can host the party in.
That's right.
We're bringing the food, and we're sending out as many invitations as possible. And then
Yep.
we're giving time for it. So, a lot of people show up at like 8:15, 8:20 for the show that starts at 8:30, but the doors open at 7 for a reason.
Yeah,
And the guys who are there at 7, they get the most out of it. They're grabbing their coffee, they're grabbing a bite to eat, and they're introducing themselves to a stranger at the table there, and they're shooting their shit, and they're getting to know each other, and then they hook back up at the break, and then they hook back up at lunch, and like, boom, now you got a buddy.
And that's the thing too. Like, there's something to be said for breaking bread, right? When you can get out there and just sit down, when everybody's eating, that kind of makes everybody feel, more human, right? It's kind of opens up that avenue to really reach out to somebody. Some of these guys in the industry, like, they're just not used to talking to a ton of people or reaching out to somebody new on a whim, right? Where when you sit down at the tables at the Hardscape Show, there's 10 other seats there that somebody could jump in beside you. You may have never met before, right?
Right.
But next thing you know, you start talking about breakfast, and then you start talking about work, and then you start talking about the job you just did or the tool you just used that you found real cool. Things like that you're right. Getting there early and being there for breakfast, it makes a day, a little more beneficial to everybody that gets in. So yeah, definitely a huge part of it.
Yeah. Plus that way you get 2 meals, not one.
Right.
All right. So let's talk about the project we were working on together. You were on both of them, actually. You were on the Virginia job, Richmond, Virginia project, and the Nashville, Tennessee project. But let's talk about the Nashville one, because that had probably the most different fixtures and lighting effects and all this stuff. And we got to see a lot of what bold lighting really is and how we can use it. So why don't we dive into that project?
Yeah, man, that one was intense, to say the least, right? Very, very, I won't say tiny backyard, but it was a smaller area, right? With a lot of loaded features. And those features, there was so many of them that you didn't want to miss them by not giving them the correct lighting effect to kind of highlight them in their own way. We had a lot of path lights. There was a ton of down lighting. The structure on that project was massive. It was one of a kind.
Yeah,
so
it really was. It was a custom fabricated steel shade structure with beautiful wood coming through as like the roof panel, and then we integrated a bunch of strip lighting and down lighting.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where you have a unique, structure like that. You don't want to just put run of the mill down lighting hanging in it, right? And then it just looks like kind of just another piece that you've seen in somebody else's backyard. But when you have unique things going into your designs, it is vital to make sure that you have unique ways to highlight those pieces on your project. You don't want to just put another, down chandelier underneath your pavilion if it's a special pavilion, just like this one was. Having those strip lights to really kind of give you a reason to look up and take in the beauty of the design in that structure. That's huge. And it gives a different ambiance to the entire project whenever you have things like that, kind of phases to the project to step through. And it makes every section of that project feel like it's its own little room, right?
And are those dimmable?
Yep. So we'll have the dimmable ones. We have color changing ones. There's a lot of options there. And the cool part about them is you can trim them down and make them fit a lot of different lengths too. So that's the nice part about it.
But you mentioned the ambiance of that room that we were creating, like being able to turn the lights down lower, because there's like a nice gas fireplace under that structure too. So being able to turn the lights down lower and then light the fireplace, create a little mood lighting. It really is impactful, and it's tough. I'm struggling to describe like the effects, because we're talking on a podcast about lighting of a landscape, but it really is not to be underestimated. And I guess the thing that always kind of rattles me when I talk to contractors is you'll have a lot of guys like they still won't offer lighting, or they'll just offer the basic stuff. Like they won't get out of their comfort zone with integrating all these new fixtures. And there's really been a flood of new fixtures and products coming into the market over the last 2-3 years. But we're still sticking with the undercaps and a couple integrated maybe in the deck boards, and that's about it. And a couple path lights, and
and that's
so much more now.
Right. With, proud of myself, I'm a dad. So, the new brand has kind of given me the free run on the pun market too. So, that's bold, right? Now I can, I can kind of poke at contractors a little bit and be like, hey, come on, be bold, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
more than just a marketing scheme, at that point. And that's the thing, dude. It comes down to a lot of guys they tend to be a little scared of the unknowns. Like, hey, that could be another problem that I have to deal with, right? Or I'm not exactly sure how to design with this style of fixture. It's a new world for me. But whenever you can make a system that's so easy to install and it makes things go really smooth, and then also gives you a really cool effect that you weren't using previously, right? Like, we're the industry's very quickly getting away from that cookie cutter project, right? There's very few contractors out there that are, they're throwing in a 10 by 10 on every house. Maybe they're using a little bit of blue and some Villaggio border on every single patio. Like, that's gone kind of by the wayside. If you want to sell a project, you got to make sure you're standing out, and pavers and the options there are a great way to do it, but take it a step further and throw a couple fixtures on that maybe the Joneses next door don't have, to where nighttime falls, their party's ending, and your party's just kicking off because you've got the right lighting fixtures, the right effects to make sure that entire outdoor living area is now going to be useful for, my parties tend to go a little late. I don't know about yours, but 2, 3 in the morning, sometimes it's still safe to walk around out there after a few cocktails, right?
Yeah. Definitely go pretty late sometimes. But I have a very extensive lighting package at home, and
that you
definitely helps. You said if you want to sell, you got to stand out. What tips or tricks do you have to help a contractor sell lighting? Like, what are some of the, maybe some of, like, give me one or two more basic things. Like, I'm not selling lighting. This is an easy way to just like get into selling lighting. And then give me maybe some more advanced stuff. The guys who are selling lighting a lot, but are selling a lot of lighting, they're making good money on it. What are they doing differently?
Well, and I think this is kind of, one of the answers can go both ways, right?
Okay.
On both sides of that. I think the first thing that is really paramount, selling any project, lighting with or without lighting, which you should be doing it with lighting if you're doing it properly, is designs, right? Having that feature for a customer to actually be able to visualize it, because all of our customers are very visual people. It's hard to sell on emotion of something that you don't know much about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how our customers are buying. They're buying on emotion. And if they can't see it, they can't believe it. And seeing is 100% believing. So designs, I would say, number one, first and foremost, if you're not throwing designs to your customers for them to, understand and approve the things you're throwing into them, lighting, you can design all of the lighting. In most design features now, they have that aspect. You can throw the IES files in and add those, specific fixtures and features into a project and show it at nighttime to really help the customer understand what they're getting.
So hold on. I want to stop you right there. You're talking about the IES files in my design software. Is that already in the software, or do I have to go download those things like as an add-on, or how's that work if I'm starting to get into the design software side of things too?
Right. Yeah. So there are some design softwares out there that have those files, some of the files already loaded. We have IES files for our specific fixtures. And a lot of the brands, out there, whether it be, pavers, whether it be furniture, whether it be structures, things like that. Sometimes you have to search for those IES, and you can download them into the design platforms that you're using.
Mm-hmm.
We do have those available for ourselves. So yeah, always reach out to your manufacturer and get those design files and make sure you're using the right ones for the products that you're using, because that's also vital. You don't want to show them a path light that's not even one you're actually going to be using, because
right. It's like this, but not. Like, you might as well not show it at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why we have so many. We have for every design software. You just Google TechnoBlock Designer's Toolbox, and you'll find all the files for every software, all the SketchUp models too. We have a full 3D warehouse, everything, so that you pop it in and you're showing the customer as realistic a version of what you're going to build for them as you possibly can. And that's really important because I think the expectation of the clients are there now.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Technology is growing every day, but it's already to a point. I mean, these design softwares, to think back from when I was using them to where they are now, it's like, dude, this is like basically like the project's done and I just walked through a video, recorded it for you. And that's what you're getting out of a design software now, right? Like it's come a long way. So it's really cool to see. And yeah, you want to make sure you're using those lifelike IES files that are really going to allow you to show the full potential of this project. I think
so when you're showing the designs, are you basically showing like, here's a full color daytime.
Yep.
Here it is at night, and it's just a black page. Here it is at night, and then here it is at night if I put a lighting package in, and then you actually have a full landscape again. You have version 2 of your landscape.
Right. The simplified version of that I go back to is like the before and after pictures, right? It's like here's your, I take it back to the guys always think it's funny. It's like, here's your brain on drugs. Here's your brain not on drugs, right? It's the same thing. Here's your house at night without any lights, and you're not going to be able to see to get to your back door. Here's what it's going to look like if we do it the right way, and it has lights on it. So,
what's the typical dollar amount of a lighting package on a backyard project? I guess. Well, first, what's a typical backyard project you're seeing? So like, let's frame it that way. What's the value of that project? What does it typically have? And then what's the lighting package usually look like as an add-on?
So, most of the projects, the average that I'm seeing across the industry right now is that 50, 60 grand, and especially in my local market.
Okay.
There are those ones that, we're jumping over 100K, right? And they're happening pretty often now these days too. But for the 40, 50, 60K backyards, they're coming with your fire pit, your fire feature, an outdoor, kitchen, some sort, just at least a grill island and a small, maybe a fridge added in on that. And then some retaining walls and just a nice little area to kind of have that table, that dining area per se. And most of them these days are having a structure on it too, because at that point, if you're outside and you get caught in that freak storm, you want to have a little bit of protection rather than just having to run right back inside, right? That's kind of the average job these days. It's stepped up, like I mentioned earlier, from the 10 by 10 cookie cutter patio to, the features are a lot more feasible, and they're almost a necessity if you're actually going to spend the time and money to do something on a project. As far as lighting plans go, we're looking at normally somewhere between 3 and 5K on a project. Is kind of your entry level, making sure you touch all the bases lighting. But I do
is
have
that
a lot
a
of
fixtures, or that's a sold package at 3 to 5K?
That's like a sold package. That's okay. with everything in it.
So it's almost a 10% upsell.
Yep, that's right. Okay. Right, and I think there's guys out there that if you have a customer that's a little leery of the lighting, or maybe they think that a lot of customers like to swipe that one off the estimate, right? That's the first thing. A lot of guys that are changing, they're like, look, I understand you may not want the premier lighting package on this job right now, but I'm not going to do this project without at least a couple fixtures in on maybe this step or this wall, just for safety and effectiveness. And they kind of set the precedence that, hey, I'm not going to do a job that doesn't have and bring quality to your backyard, right? And
you're making it an expectation. You're not making an option. Like, of course, I'm going to put lighting in. It's like finishing your basement and not putting any lighting in.
100%. Exactly.
So it doesn't make any sense.
Yep. And that's the biggest thing is, then when they set that expectation, even if that customer doesn't initially go with that lighting package, you throw a couple lights in, then you've already got the transformer there. You're probably going to pre-run a little bit of wire for later on, because that customer is going to see the value in those, maybe a half dozen cap lights you throw in. Maybe that's all you start with. 2 months later, after they've been using it and they're like, man, it's really dark out here at the end of the patio. Like, maybe we should have, wonder if they can add some lights. And then they're calling you back and you're like, yeah, absolutely. We've already got the wires ran for you. So let's make sure we set this up the right way. And you come back and, there's your upsell. Maybe it's not right away, but it's going to be pretty soon after.
Do you see that happen a lot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a ton of guys that are, it took a little bit for the industry to get that way, but I'm seeing more and more guys are bringing that value to their projects and understanding that, hey, this is an opportunity for me. And if I don't do the lighting, I'm leaving money on the table. right? If I don't have at least a couple lights and a transformer in there, it's going to be 20 times harder to upsell it in the future. So if I throw it in there now, it's almost a guaranteed callback for more work later on.
This episode is brought to you by Hardscaper.com. The Hardscaper mission is to empower industry professionals with the skills, inspiration, and confidence they need to take their businesses to new heights. Struggling with training programs for your team? Looking for helpful tips to build a better company? Subscribe today to gain access to hours of interactive on-demand Hardscape construction and business courses for free. Check out hardscaper.com. What are there any like more advanced techniques you talked about, like showing the design? Is there anything like particular that some of your big guns are doing that they're selling massive lighting projects as a result of?
100%. And it comes down to like the smart features and the smart effects with smart transformers and the dimmable lights. When you get those smart transformers and you can really zone out a project and create those layers throughout a project. You think of your house and you walk in, you turn the first light on in the hallway or in the entryway. You've still got 4 or 5 more rooms to turn lights on, right? Mm-hmm. You're not just going to switch the whole house on with one switch. So when you get those smart transformers, now you're actually able to walk in and you can light up the fire feature area and maybe the outdoor kitchen, but you've got 2 or 3 more stages to the outdoor area that you can actually kind of dim a little bit. So maybe it's just kind of that backdrop to the project and, when you're out there, or you can flip on the whole backyard through the pool and the, maybe the cornhole area or the turf area that you have, the putting green that you have out back. Things like that to where you can actually kind of, say it's just you and the wife hanging out in the backyard around the fire pit. You really don't need anything but maybe some dimmable lights around the fire pit. But you've got the whole family there. It's 4th of July or, whatever holiday or a birthday party. And you've got 20, 30 people in the backyard. Now you can turn everything on, throw some color changing into some of the walls so that, the kids are like, wow, everybody's talking about that backyard after they leave there. And that's what customers really want to buy. They're not trying to buy, you think of, I go to the inside of the house and you think of, the average living room, it's got a couch, a coffee table, and a rug in the middle, right? We want to have stuff that sets us apart, and that our family and friends are talking about after they leave. If I'm going to spend, $100K, $200K or, more on a backyard, it's got to be something to talk about. It's not something that somebody's going to walk away from my home and forget it. So we want to make sure we're highlighting those things and those features in the backyard with layers and with the right lighting effect. So up lighting, down lighting, and using everything in correlation. Those are the things that the guys that are really selling those huge jobs and those crazy, just, really exciting jobs, they're using all of those things to their benefit.
They're showing all the features, all the bells and whistles, everything I could do for you. Because once you see it, it's hard to unsee it.
That's right.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go to the big question. What the heck is Bold Lighting?
Absolutely.
What's going on?
Yeah. There's a lot of confusion out there, but it's not as scary as people want to make it out to be sometimes, right? Those changes in the industry, they happen often. And this one, I can confidently say, it's for the best. And we're building a brand that is going to be North American based. It's going to, work with our North American contractors to make sure that we're bringing the right products to the market that our guys are out there using. Things that they want to see, things that they need to see, and we're making the upgrades that the market needs to really push the envelope. Having more efficient connectors, more robust connectors that, really are going to stand the test of time. And there's not 1,000 pieces to it. It's foolproof. There's a lot of new upgrades, like with our Cobra connector, which is our quick connect system, still comes with every light just like it has before. The cool part about it now is it has an indicator light on it. So just when you thought, test and troubleshooting a system couldn't get any easier, now it does.
Yeah. So now I don't need to have the fixture on hand to make sure the connection is done properly. I've seen this connector. It's pretty freaking sick. So basically, like I have my power supply cable that's running. Yep. And the Cobra connector, I can basically like put it on with one hand because like it bites on to the cable. And as soon as I have the right connection, there's this little green LED that lights up, right?
It's just
But
a
it's
real
not like this
soft
big obnoxious thing that I'm going to see it in the ground. It's like this like little muted, like it's on. Okay, that means I got power running through it. So I can leave this connector here. I can pop in the other connectors, and then I can come back with all the fixtures. I don't have to do it like one by one, the whole thing necessarily.
The thought process behind that too is because how many times are you on a job where you're laying out, you're running the wire because you're about to say put a walkway down. You don't want to throw those path lights out there so that when you're cutting and cutting in your borders and
they're in the way.
They're in the way. They're getting dirty. So then you have to go back and clean them up after the job's finished. And it's like, well, if I can throw the wire in, put the connectors in the spacings that I want the lights, then I can just do the lights after everything's done. And I already know they're going to work.
Finishing touch. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's
really
huge, cool. Man. It doesn't seem like much, but it's like, think of the time spent. I've put a lot of lights in. The time spent coming back and like wiping down, like, okay, you want to make sure it's nice and clean. There's mulch all over this. You're watching the guys do the plantings and they got the little auger out and they're flinging dirt everywhere. Like, oh, I'm going to have to wipe that thing down again. Or a guy stepping on the fixture, like you got the right angle, they step on it, they pop the little thing out. Like it doesn't seem like much, but when you don't have to deal with that anymore, all of a sudden you're like, man, this is pretty sweet.
And it goes back to creating those job site efficiencies, right? Like we want to find ways to be the most efficient so that we're bringing the most profit back out of that job. If I'm paying Jimmy 5 more hours to go back and wipe everything down at the end, that's money I'm losing out of that job that could have been going into our pocket and back into the company for the next project, right? That's an aspect to think of, is how can I do things so that things stay clean? The homeowner's not seeing their new investment getting dirty as we're doing the project, right? So that's even better taste in their mouths. They're like, wow, these guys were really efficient. They were really clean. They thought everything through. Their process is very, very fine-tuned. That just makes you look like even more of a rock star whenever you're completing that job. And, you walk away from it, that customer's leaving you a 5-star review, and they're talking about how clean you kept the job and how nice everything looked when it was done.
So what else does Bold bring to the table that's different?
So we got some bigger transformers. We're going to have some new communication with our smart fixtures, which is going to be over the power line communication now. So rather than having to talk and communicate from fixture to transformer via Bluetooth, which that has its range restrictions and can have some other complications with like updating and things like that. Now it's going to be done through the system, so it's a lot more seamless. And it also gives us a lot more versatility in the fact that rather than just being able to zone fixtures out by which power run it's on, now we can actually zone out fixtures per fixture. So we throw... So really I
don't need to have like 5 power runs coming out or 3 power runs coming out of a transformer because I have some up lighting, some down lighting, and some path lighting all in the same area. Kind of like what you're saying, like sitting around the fire pit. If I just want to have the undercap lighting and I don't want to have the spots and everything, previously that would be 2 zones to do that.
Right, exactly.
Now it wouldn't have to be 2 zones.
Not at all. No, and that's the cool part about it. It gives.
Do I have to buy like a special fixture for that, or just all the fixtures have that because of the over the line control of the system?
Yeah, so we're going to have our smart fixtures and, our regular on-off fixtures. The first phase of fixtures you're going to see coming out are just going to be on-off. And then the second phase and third phase, we're going to have, some more dimmable fixtures than what we've previously seen in the market. And then we're going to also have a lot more color changing fixtures as well. Those fixtures are going to be the ones that you're going to be able to zone out and communicate with the app whenever you install them. You can basically, the cool part about it and the way I explain it is you can zone each light as its own zone and then take certain zones and put them into groups. So now I can have, say when I install this spotlight and then the next light I put in is an undercap light just because of how that line runs. I don't have to have them on the same zone just because they were installed one after the other. I can make each one its separate zone and then make sure that all the cap lights are in their group, all the spotlights are in their group, and really the versatility to being how we can match up products now is going to be 20 times more and a lot more, can be a lot more creative with it now, right? Like you have a lot more leash to kind of do what you need to do and make that project, creative.
That's pretty cool. Anything else?
I mean, as far as like fixtures, we're going to see a lot more North American style fixtures. So those path lights that you're used to seeing, the L-shaped path lights, the kind of the China hat style. It's not necessarily just going to be a China hat. We're going to have a bold flare to it, if you will. But you're going to see a lot more of those fixtures that the customers are kind of asking for, those commodities in the market that they're seeing from a lot of other places, or they're just used to seeing across the board. We are creatures of habit. And, while there's some customers that are willing to step out on that new wild look, there's also a lot of customers that are asking for
that traditional
look that's really coming into, there's still a lot of markets that are just thriving on those products, right? The other thing too, on the connection side of it is, we're going to have what's called the Bold bar. So rather than having to put a Cobra connector for every fixture, now you can put a Cobra connector on the line, and it's basically going to be like a junction box where you can put, I think it's 6, 8, and then 12 fixtures into this little Bold bar.
So I don't have to do like this, like a ton of connectors, just snap all the way along cable. I do one, it comes to this box, and everything's plugged into there. So that's great. If I have like let's say like a big planting bed, I got a bunch of little spots and like different lights, and maybe along the edge I have some path lights. All that can just be run into that one junction box.
Exactly. And that,
cool.
Every time you make a connection, that's one more area that you have to worry about a failure down the road. Because anytime you're making a splice, that's an area that creates a little bit of a different weakness in that line, right? So the less connections you have to make, the better that system's going to be. And it's also easier if you do have an issue to troubleshoot, because you can go to one central location, boom, here's all your connections. And it's way easier to connect everything in one spot than it is to have to run here, connect this, connect that, and just run all over the job site.
Is there like a limitation to how many connections I can run on a line?
So as far as connections go, there are no limitations to it. The only thing you really want to keep into account is just what your voltage drop is down the line. Figure out the load of each one of your lights, and then just calculate, each one of the systems. We have 100 VA max that we can go down the line, and we can get into VA here in a second just to explain that for the guys who aren't 100% sure. But if I have 100 VA max down the line, but I'm putting, say, just to throw a number out there, I'm putting 520 VA lights on, if that fifth 20 VA light is 300 feet down the line, there's probably going to be a little bit of voltage drop down there. So you really want to keep into effect, how big of the load that each light's pulling. And we have a VA calculator that we'll have on our site that you can go on there and calculate all that and calculate for your voltage drop down the line. We've got a lot of resources like that we're going to be making sure the contractors have access to and can make sure that their projects are going smoothly. So, but back to the VA thing.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't understand because they're used to the voltage systems, right? And you think about it, the best way that I can explain it is, I relate it to cars because a lot of our guys are car guys too, right? They work on their own stuff on the side, or they have in the past. You think about a car and it's idling, and that's how much fuel it uses when it's idling. That's what voltage is, all right? It's the idle draw of a light. VA takes into account, when you fire your car up, that initial surge of fuel that it takes to fire the car up is kind of like the line rush voltage that you get from firing up the lights to make them pop. And that is a little bit more of a surge than just the voltage. With the VA, it takes into account that line rush and the idle. So now we don't have to calculate the 80% range on our transformer. We're just calculating, we can fill a transformer to 100% of the VA because we're factoring in that surge. And it's a lot simpler math on the job, right? I hate math. I'm decent at it, but I'm not one that loves to go to it if I don't have to. So if I could do simple addition in my head and I'm on the job site, I don't have to get the calculator out or whatnot and figure things out. It's a lot more easy for me, and the contractors love it once they realize just how quick you can add up a system. And it also helps you kind of as soon as you order, you know exactly what transformer you need. You don't have to go through that math as well to figure out what you need for that job.
So, and you said that basically there's going to be one of these calculators on the new website, because Bold is, everything's happening really fast here, but Bold is like brand new.
Yep.
But it's all people like you who have been in the lighting side of things for multiple years and have been running this thing and know what's going on. It's effectively, you guys were a North American distributor and now you're becoming a North American manufacturer of lights. Yeah, like you're a full lighting brand now instead of just a reseller of them.
And that's the thing too. We didn't just make a brand out of thin air, right? We took years and years and years of experience, R&D. You know, we've gone through what issues could come and what issues did come, and we took that all into account when we created this line. You know, the upgrades that we came up with, you know, we don't have a fixture that's not under IP65. There's not a cap light, a path light. You know, recessed fixtures are still all IP67, like a lot of the people are used to, but the under cap lights.
What does that mean? What's IP65 and 67?
Ingress protection. So that's how protected it is from dust and water, right? The first number, 6, is how protected it can be from dust. 6 is the highest number. The second number is how protected it is from water intrusion, basically. 8 is the highest number for that. That's like your pond fixtures, your pool fixtures are IP68. No water's getting in them. They can be underwater for a finite amount of time, and you don't have any issues. IP67 is basically as good as like your smartphone. You know, the smartphones, you got to see the videos of people swimming in the pool with them and whatnot. They can be under, they say about 3 foot of water or 9 foot of water for like 30 minutes, they say. It can go a little longer than that, but it's more of a under promise and over deliver sort of thing.
So those are the integrated fixtures that have that rating.
All of our fixtures are integrated, so there's not going to be any pieces and parts. But the recess fixtures are IP67. So the ones you're putting in pavers and recessing into, you know, different materials and things like that. Those ones are IP67, and then we're not going to manufacture a single product, whether it's a path light, undercap light, a spotlight, that's not going to be at least IP65. So everything's going to be just about as good as your smartphone, if not better, moving forward.
So what were you saying about that though? Sorry, I cut you off on.
That's the thing where we took that, you know, from previous experiences, is we made sure that every product we had this threshold to go off of. You know, we're raising the IP ratings on all of our fixtures. We're also creating a smooth one color temp line, so it's all going to be 2700K out the box, which, you know, there's, you know, 5000 is considered cool lighting, 2700 is considered warm lighting. It's that traditional warm color that you're looking for, all with a high color rendering index. So like when it shines on a tree at night, the greens that you see are going to be just as true as the greens you see in natural sunshine. You know, we're making sure that there's not going to be any fine print on any of these products. You're not going to find one product in our line that drops below these thresholds and these quality criteria, right? Making sure that we kind of stand behind when we preach something, we mean it, and it's from beginning to end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like it because, I mean, knowing the team there at Bold and you know, seeing some of the fixtures and seeing the connectors and some of the innovations that are coming down the pipe here, it's pretty impressive, and it's rare. I mean, I think this is something to point out. Like, it's rare that you get a new brand popping out of nowhere for anything in our industry. It's usually like all the same players, and they're innovating their stuff. This is like, okay, well, we can do better than what's coming into the market. We've been selling it for a long time. We know what people are looking for, what they're asking for. We can't get it. So, you know what? Screw it. We're going to do it ourselves.
That's exactly right.
Which is a bold move and a bold name.
That's right. And that's where the puns are going to make the 2024 extremely fun. I can tell you that.
Cool. Is there anything you want to add about lighting, about fixtures, about business, about Bold? Anything?
Well, I think, you know, I'm going to leave this for the people to come to the show. Come check us out at the Hardscape Show. I'm going to get to be at the very first one. I'm going to be at Tennessee to launch, you know, off with you guys, which I'm super pumped for. You know, just come see us. You know, come out to the shows, take it all in, and you stop by the Bold table, see the products, talk to us, and, you know, see for yourself, man. That's really where it's going to come out to, you know, seeing is believing, like I said earlier, and that's when you're really going to understand, all right, this is where the innovation's coming in, and this is where the industry's headed. So come check it out. Again, the Hardscaper shows, if you're not going to them, you're a fool, because you're missing out on a ton of free education, a ton of free networking. and a lot of really cool knowledge that comes out of these shows. And they're a good time. I think everybody there, yourself, myself, all the other vendors that are at the shows, we make sure it's fun too, right? It's not just a day in the classroom. It's a bit of a party. And I say that for a reason, because, we've always, I think back in the past 2 years ago into the shows, it's always been a good time, right?
Yeah. Well, we try to keep it a good time because, we're doing a bunch of them, so it's got to be fun for us. Every day, new city, new people. We got to make it fun. So yeah.
First year, it was a bit of a crazy road show. I think I went on all of them with you that year in the States. Yeah. So we keep it lively. That's for sure.
100%. Well, listen, man, looking forward to it. That's in just a couple weeks. So by the time this episode comes out, I think it will have happened, but there will be over 20 more still coming up. So make sure you check them out. Events.hardscaper.com is where you can learn more and sign up. And absolutely. What a fun experience this is going to be, because now we have brand new products that no one has ever seen before, ever in the world at these shows. So that's pretty cool. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So Lee, thank you very much for joining us on the show. What's the best way to get a hold of you, and what's the new website and all the new social media stuff if people want to learn more about Bold?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So you can reach out to us. You can reach out to boldpros_ on Instagram. Our website is boldpros.com. And you can also reach out to me directly at boldpros_ Lee on Instagram, and email me at lee@boldpros.com as well. So if you have any questions, reach out. I'm happy to chat with you and get you going into the new year.
All right. Thanks a lot, Lee, for joining us, guys. Make sure to check out the website and give Lee and Bold Pros a follow, because I'm telling you, they got a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe here, and you want to be the first to know about it. Until next time, everybody, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you next week on the Hardscape Growth Show.
See you guys.
You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business, so make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.